Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am your host, the NFL Genius, Gene Walzak, in the upper left corner. I got Kent State Zone, Cleveland Zone, College Cottrell.
Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine Wednesday evening?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I feel pretty good. I feel great. Got a nice haircut. Feeling smooth. Nick Reyes is in the chat already. Fucking Knicks fan. I'm gonna get into that shit. I can't wait. Yo, listen, I'm fired up though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am fired up and I'm feeling great. How you feeling, Cottrell?
Hey, I can't complain. You know, both of our teams won yesterday, so I feel like we're in a good spot right now. So yeah, you know, it's crazy, right?
It's crazy because they've gotten no coverage.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
And it's not your fault. That's not the Cavs' fault. It's kind of
sure
weird.
It is. No, sure it is. Have you seen their games?
I have. They're very bad. It's very bad basketball.
Exactly. Who wants to see that on prime time?
I'm not. You might be right. I'm just saying. I feel bad.
I don't. They've earned it.
It was an amazing win for the Sixers. What's up, Timmy Todd? Love seeing you in the chat. In the upper right corner, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William James Shawcross. I just added the middle. That's not even his middle name.
I said that is not my middle name.
I just like having fun, bro. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good groove. And Shally's here. We got something to do.
We do.
How you feeling,
Shally? Good show. Good. It's gonna be fun. Like our annual, you know, I look towards the little things. So, you know, first horse race of the year predictions coming up later.
Oh yeah, the horsies are gonna do stuff this week.
They're gonna run around in a circle.
Listen, I watch it for whatever reason, but I watch it.
It's great. It's great. It's part of Americana. It's great.
I got a lot to get into tonight. I really do. And Bose, I see you in the chat already. Steven Chambers, what's popping? If y'all don't mind, just tag your followers in the chat. Just go at followers, tag them in our chat. I'd really appreciate that. If you just hit at followers, Charlie's going to do it. Cottrell's going to do it. I did already. Just tag your followers and let them know to listen to us. We're also live on Twitter or X, whatever it is this week. TikTok. We're not live on TikTok. YouTube, Twitch, all that jazz. We're having some fun tonight. The NBA playoffs are here, and that's where we're starting. I got to start with the Sixers. Sorry, it's the lead. It's the lead, guys. And it's not even just because I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan. It's the best series right now. And there's no doubt about it. And last night, I have a confession to make. I have to apologize to Sixers Nation. I do. It's going to be embarrassing. I'm going to get roasted for it, and that's okay. There was a minute left in the game. 76ers went down 6. I hit the power button on the TV. Turn the game off. I got in the car to head to a softball game. I turn the radio on, and I hear, what a three-pointer by Tyrese Maxey, and he's shooting one at the line. So I missed the call. I didn't watch the 3-ball, the end one foul. I did listen to the rest of the game on the radio, but that 30 seconds, I missed it. I could have stayed till the end of regulation, put it on in my car. I got to softball a little early. Like, I didn't need to do that. I knew it was going to happen. The 76ers were going to lose. I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. And then they didn't lose because a little guy by the name of Tyrese Maxey, 7 points in 17 seconds. I think it rivals winning time with Reggie Miller. Like, it's got to rival. From the logo, he hit it from the E in New York. Tyrese, and by the way, that's not even all there was to it, right? Let's continue the rant a little bit. You get overtime, Jalen Brunson hits a three-pointer. Then they get another two-pointer, up 5 points before you can blink an eye. Nick Nurse calls the timeout. Right out of the timeout, what do the 76ers do? I don't know. Tyrese Maxey, 3-ball. It's now a 2-point game again. I am of the inkling, and I kind of want Control's opinion on this. I know Bill's. We talked last night, and Bill will share it with you guys. But Joel Embiid sucked last night, and I'm tired of the look, dude. Last week I'm the Joel Embiid apologist, right? Like through our group chat, I'm the Joel Embiid apologist, right? Like I'm the guy that's constantly like he's hurt, he's this, he's that, whatever. Last night, he looked like he looked Game 7 versus Boston. He looked like he looked versus Atlanta Game 7. He looked mopey. I don't want to be here. I'm just waiting until I get eliminated so I can cry about it. He looked terrible last night. And we got people online like, he had a triple-double with 5 blocks with 1 leg and blah, blah, blah. When you run the entire offense through one guy and he scores 19 points on 19 shots, he better have 10 assists. He had 9 turnovers. I don't know what the hell you're watching. And I love Embiid. But man, this NBA is so soft that we allow guys to just crumble when the moment is big off the hook by saying, well, he was injured. Okay, cool. He was injured. Last year in the postseason, was he not playing with the partially torn meniscus? That we're talking about he was injured. Was he not? Okay. 2 years ago, was he not injured in the postseason? He had the eye injury and he had the mask and he had the face mask. And 3 years ago, he didn't play in the postseason. I'm so sick of hearing, well, he's injured. It doesn't matter. You want to be the superstar. You want to be the MVP. You want to be the best in the world. You got to show up when the moment matters. I'm tired of the excuses. And last night, he was terrible throwing the ball to the other team. He had just as many assists to the New York Knicks as he had to the Philadelphia 76ers. OG Anunoby scored 6 points off Joel Embiid passes. Control, was he not as bad as I thought he was? Am I like the 76ers fans are, oh, this aged well and you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. He had a triple-double on 1 leg and Bell's palsy and blah, blah. Bro, what do you mean? Maxey won that game. I'm done. I'm going to stop, pause, Control.
No, so I think you're spot on there, especially about Embiid. I mean, it would be one thing if it was like, hey, if his history didn't precede him, I think that would be an entirely different story. He's had good games so far throughout the series. I mean, the notion that he comes up smaller in the playoffs, like I think he was starting to put that to bed up until this last game. Now, granted, I do think, the previous game in the fourth quarter, you definitely saw him slow down like that second half. He played a lot of minutes. Last night, played a lot of minutes as well. Wasn't great the entire game. Had a ton of turnovers. But I think the biggest thing, though, is that it's important for Sixers fans to be honest about what you're looking at. Tyrese Maxey is the future of this team. And I'm not just saying this because, and it's not a knee-jerk reaction just because Joel had a bad last game. The reality of the situation is, as great as Joel Embiid is, every time you need him to come up big, he's hurt. Now, I'm not saying you don't give him credit for going out there and playing hurt and going through the Bell's palsy and all that stuff. But at the same time, like you want your guys to be reliable and to be out there on the court. I think Tyrese Maxey has shown you that you can build you a roster around Tyrese Maxey. Like I think he's a stud and he's built for the moments like this. Even the games where he's struggling a bit, he stays aggressive. He stays, putting the pressure on the defense and trying to make the right basketball play. Having damn near 50 in a closeout game where Joel Embiid, your star, the guy who's won an MVP award, and, you run your entire offense through, isn't playing great. And you say, you know what? Screw it. Team's going on my back. I'm not losing, not like this. I don't care if we're on the road. I don't care where we are. I'm not losing like this. You have to be inspired by that effort. And I loved what I saw out of him. Not saying you blow it up right away, but I think next year, and I don't even want to start talking too much about next year. As far as this year goes, I think Tyrese Maxey has shown you that he can be a superstar in this league.
Shally, am I wrong? Am I wrong about what I'm saying about now? By the way, this is the same guy right here that went off on Shally on Sunday. I went off on him. I had the text chat. I was pissed at Shally. You know, Embiid played the entire second half. They were awful when he was off the court in Game 4. I did not blame Game 4 on him at all. I blamed Game 4 on the ghost of Tobias Harris, and I felt like, but Game 5, they would have lost last night. I'm not kidding with you. I'm going to hand it in my Joel Embiid fan card. I might have handed it in. And like, I love JoJo. I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. But man, I can't. Am I wrong? Shally, help me out.
Tobias had a good game too.
He did. Finally.
Tobias did have a good game last night.
Which, by the way, you guys never crush him. And that drives me fucking nuts. But
that's how you guys.
You don't crush him.
I don't crush anybody.
Well,
on the Sixers.
Now, regardless of all that, no, you're not wrong. I mean, it's my problem with it has been from the get-go. It's the same thing every year. You know, Nick Reyes hit it a couple comments ago. If you're able to play, if you're healthy enough to get on the floor and play and accept all the accolades when you play a great game, then you can't fall back on it when you have a bad game. I don't want to hear it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It can't be, oh, well, I played great tonight, so, my Bell's palsy and my knee wasn't bothering me that much tonight. And then the next night have a shitty game and say, oh, well, yeah, my Bell's palsy was acting up and my knee's swollen. No, you can't have it both ways. This is a pattern with JoJo. And Gene kind of alluded to it. This isn't the first time, when they got eliminated by Atlanta, 17 points, 8 turnovers, nowhere to be found that game. Granted, that's the infamous Ben game, and I get it. But at the same point, he wasn't great that game. The other night, Game 4, 1 point in the fourth quarter, 3 turnovers. It's a pattern with him. And Gene said it perfectly. If you want to be the guy that you want to be the face of the franchise, you want to, be the guy that everybody looks at as like the best, the most dominant big man in the league and this and that and all that, it's got to stop. And it's I think the frustrating thing with me still is, you saw it in Game 4, he's driving, and instead of just dunking the goddamn ball on the dude, he tries his fancy layup, misses it, misses one of the free throws, whatever. I don't know if it's a tired thing. I don't know if it's a lazy thing. I don't know if it's an afraid thing. I'm sick and tired of crunch time watching Tyrese Maxey make play after play after play and JoJo hanging out at the top of the key. Done with it. I've said it for 3 years, and you're starting to see it again. He gets in these patterns where he doesn't want to drive, he doesn't want to play down the block, and it's, I'll chuck this 3 up. Here comes a 1-footed, a one-legged 3. Cool. When he makes them, great. I'll take the heat for that one. But when he doesn't, and like Gene said, he has 19 points on 19 shots. Don't tell me he played great, because he didn't. That was nowhere near one of JoJo's best. That's not even a top 10, playoff game that he's ever had, because he's had some great ones. It's nothing's changed for me. I love the guy.
Lazy, Shally. When he gets tired, he gets lazy, and it's very obvious. Like the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, Nick Nurse even pulled him out with 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go.
Had to give him that soft breather, like 2-3 minute breather.
I don't even know if it was a breather. I think it was he just thrown the ball away again to OG Anunoby. Just threw the ball away to him, and he's moping around the court, and he's got bad body language. And by the way, I don't know if Nick Nurse realizes this, but he figured out the non-JoJo minutes last night with that 6-minute mark. That's the lineup. You go Batum at the 5, because anything that you lose with rebounding with Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein, you gain with being able to spread them out offensively. And everyone has to crash, right? When you go small, everyone has to crash. You don't throw in Paul Reed, another guy that can't shoot. Take advantage of them by moving your guys out to the perimeter. Ty Lue, Rudy Gobert them. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, what Ty Lue did to Rudy Gobert was mean. It was mean. Rudy Gobert was like defensive player of the year, and the Clippers went 5 wide on the 3-point line, and we're just like, go ahead, figure it out. And literally embarrassed him in that series. And you can do that versus the Knicks when JoJo's on the bench by going 5 wide, running Batum at the center with Tobias, Oubre, Maxey, and either Lowry or Campaign. 5 guys that can hit the 3 ball and spread out the lane. That gives Maxey driving lanes. That gives Lowry driving lanes. That's what they have to do.
I think, though, the one thing about that, though, is what's important is the Knicks, granted, they didn't take advantage on the offensive end. But on the flip side, I think for that to work, you have to have those role players hit shots. Nicholas Batum, while he's had some good games, shooting the ball in this series, that particular game, I know there's a few down the stretch where, Maxey found him in the corner and he wasn't hitting them. So, like, it's going to be important for the role players to step up in those non-JoJo minutes and hit the open shots. And I think, going back home, you will see more of that. We say it all the time on the show, role players play better at home. So you probably don't have to worry about that as much. But I think the important thing, though, is going to be next game. Of course, you need Joe Wall to play better, but can you rely on Tobias Harris to get you another 19 points in that game? Like, who's going to have to step up? Kelly Oubre had been great all season, and he hasn't been as productive points-wise in this series. Like, you got to find somebody who's going to step up to the plate and put the ball in the basket that's not named Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey.
And Mo, by the way, I just want to make 2 comments. I appreciate your comments. He's a great player, but I've always said he's got some quit in him. I completely agree. However, you did say something earlier that I have to point out. You have to add for the 76ers if you're going to put this comment in there. He says, Maxey's been the best player in this series, period. No, he hasn't. Jalen Brunson has been the best player in this series, period. Maxey's been the best player for the 76ers in this series, and I agree with that.
Jalen, bad what, game 2?
What'd you say?
Was it game 2 when Jalen threw the game? Yeah, the game that they won when Maxey turned it over late. Brunson had a bad game.
Say Maxey turned it over late. I still don't want to admit that because that's not what happened.
I mean, but that's how it went down in the book.
Yeah, you're right. And I just watched that game and I remember game 2 and I'm like, we got cheated out of game 2. Should be 3-2 coming back to Philadelphia. That's what it should be. This is absolutely, it was blasphemy.
It's funny how the tone changes though, because after it happened, you're like, you know what? Yeah, did we get cheated? Probably, but we still should have won that game.
And that the tone didn't change. We still got cheated out of the game, and they still need to rebound the ball offensively and be able to inbound the basketball. Both things can be true.
I think it feels like you're more mad about it now because you saw how last night went, and it's like, hey, they should be coming back home now for a chance to close the series.
Yeah. I mean,
like if they had lost last night, I feel like you wouldn't care as much about, like we wouldn't be talking about.
You're absolutely right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You're right. I think that what do you guys like game 6 tomorrow night, 76ers, 9:00. And by the way, the last thing I want to bring up, I got a little bit of a sound off, and I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to do this twice in one show, but I have to do it. I do. I have to do it. 2 things, right? And I'm gonna get in trouble for this. So if you're listening, don't record me. This is bad, what I'm about to say, and it's the truth.
Oh, boy.
If you're a 76ers fan,
oh, okay,
or you're from Philadelphia, and you sell your tickets and you're not selling them personally to someone that you know is a 76ers fan, you're a bad fan. I don't really care. You're a bad fan for selling your tickets on StubHub. You start.
I'm going to second all of this.
You're not going to second the second part. I know you won't.
Be surprised.
If you're at the stadium and you lose game 4 and the Knicks are screaming and chanting Knicks in 5, I'm okay with that, right? That's their team. They're allowed to do that. However, outside of that stadium, them stomping on Sixers flags and jerseys and ripping stuff and desecrating stuff, I would have caught a charge. I'm not. Listen, it's only one night in prison. Walk up and punch him in the face. I'm not kidding with you. If you see that shit in front of that does not happen in front of your house. It does not. And I'm not trying to say go find a Knicks fan and go punch him in the face. But if they're stomping on Sixers stuff and ripping Sixers memorabilia and flags and shit like that in front of the stadium, walk up and punch him in the goddamn face. And I'm sorry, if the Knicks fans want to come down to Philadelphia and act like they're tough, you're lucky I didn't have tickets to that game because I'd be in jail right now. I wouldn't be on the show. I cannot believe a city in which a fictitious character named Rocky lived here allowed that shit to happen in front of their stadium. Do not allow that to happen. You're from Philadelphia. I was mind blown. I was mind blown after that basketball game, how they allowed Knicks fans to just stomp and desecrate in front of our stadium. That's ridiculous. Sorry. Please put a Brunson jersey on Rocky. And I hope you do it. I hope you do it not like a coward. You do it in front of people. Put a Brunson jersey on Rocky in front of people. Swear to you. And by the way, Knicks fans that pretend they're this tough city, we're tough, we're this, keep posting shit about Joel Embiid being a dirty player. By the way, it's playoff basketball. Shut up. What Mitchell Robinson did to Kelly Oubre was just as dirty as anything Embiid's done in this series. He put two arms and shoved them, and they didn't call a flagrant foul because it's Kelly Oubre. And last but not least, what the hell does Tyrese Maxey have to do to get a goddamn call like Jalen Brunson gets him? And I get it. He's not a Jalen Brunson star, but that man has been beat to shit going through that lane and never gets a foul call. Why? Because he smiles and he doesn't argue with you and he doesn't flail his arms like a crybaby? It's bullshit.
But that's why, though. You notice that in this series, there's the flailers get their calls. Joel Embiid's been to the free throw line countless times. Jalen Brunson, when he gets hit, he flails or he's on the ground and he's holding his face. Like, the reality is Maxey's got to flail to get more calls, and it sucks and it's dumb, but that is your answer. You see it.
The logic in that is just ridiculous, though, because all you ever hear from the refs is they don't want to see the flailing, they don't want to see the diving and everything else, but then call what you see, because the only people that get rewarded are the Joels, are the LeBrons, are the people that sit there and act like idiots after they get tapped on the arm.
Can I trade 3 Joel calls for 1 Maxey call? I'll trade 3 of them if we can get 1 Maxey superstar call. Oh. Bro, I'm so like, I don't know how this series got me this heated. Because, by the way, I'm ashamed to admit this. I like the Knicks team. I love their team. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. Yeah, I love them. Dante DiVincenzo. If they weren't playing the 76ers, I'd be rooting for them. But this Knicks fan base has gotten under my goddamn skin because they're all tough. They're tough. They're tough. They're tough. They're tough. And then they're on Twitter talking about, this is so, Joel Embiid is trying to hurt all our guys. It's playoff basketball. Shut up. Go watch Knicks Heat from 1999 and tell me what the hell that series was. I know it's a different world. I get it. But you want to talk physicality? It's playoff basketball. You guys play physical too. And Mitchell Robinson didn't get hurt because Joel Embiid grabbed his leg. He was hurt already. Let's not pretend Joel hurt his ankle on that play. We don't know where he got hurt. Oh, shut up. Shut up.
To be fair, Joel is starting to put together a compilation of dirty plays.
He's a dirty player. I'll be very clear. Joel's a dirty player. He gets angry and he does dirty plays. And by the way, the flagrant on Brunson was awful. Awful.
The funny part is, I don't even think that's been the worst one. Like, the replay that they showed of him stepping on Josh Hart's leg, like that's
no way that's not intentional.
By far, that one was way worse. Like, hitting Brunson in the face, like, I thought you can get away saying, like, oh, I was trying to swipe for the ball. Granted, I knew he wasn't, it definitely seemed dirty, but stepping on Josh Hart, it was like he saw him, like, hesitated, and then he's like, you know what, I just can act like I'm falling. I'll step right on his leg, and then we'd be good to go. But that's been interesting to see. Joel's starting to get that moniker.
He's a dirty player. He's in Ndamukong Suh. That's how I relate him.
He's not that bad.
Yes, he is. He's probably worse.
He's got some bad ones.
He's got some bad ones. Go back to like the beginning of the Ndamukong Suh, dude. He was like horse stomping people in the dick, dude. Like when people
he's like a step below Draymond at this point.
I actually think Joel's worse than Draymond.
Oh,
I do. All right, so I can't take the whole show on the 76ers. Who do you guys like in Game 6? Who do you guys like in the series? As much as I'd want to continue talking about this, by the way.
In general, I thought the Knicks were going to close it out last night, but I think the Sixers won Game 6 at home, and then I think the Knicks ultimately pull it out in Game 7.
I hate to agree. I mean, there's no good way for it to end now. So, I mean, if we lose the home court, that sucks after forcing to get back here. But then if you win tomorrow night and then go up to New York and lay a dud and lose in Game 7, it just becomes the typical Philly pain story. So that's probably how it's going to go.
I think the 76ers win in a blowout tomorrow night and then get blown out in Game 7. I think I think the next two games aren't close. I think the 76ers win by 15 tomorrow night, and Oubre goes off, and everybody all the role players look great. And I think in Game 7, it's a close game in the second quarter, and the New York Knicks fans just get in their head. The Knicks go on a run, and it's an avalanche. And I think that you almost seen that in Game 6 or Game 5. But I think they'll get I think they'll get avalanche.
The 7. One thing that honestly is giving me like cause to pause there, I feel like I'm downplaying like the impact of Tyrese Maxey. Like I'm really starting to think of Tyrese Maxey now, like after this series and especially after that game, like he's low key going into like that next tier for me. Like he's not quite there like with Ant yet, on that level, but like seeing like Devin Booker go from here and like slowly taking that decline and seeing Maxey step up in the playoffs and have like 40-point games and things like that. Like he's coming up there. Like I almost don't think Maxey's the kind of guy. It's like he's not built to just let the Knicks blow him out in any game. If he has to say screw it, Joel's not getting touches, he'll do that and do what he needs to do.
By the way, just because you brought that up, I'm going to do a quick Tyrese Maxey or next 5 years. Can we do that real quick?
Sure.
I got 6 names I just thought of on the top of my head. Next 5 years, Tyrese Maxey or. Okay?
Okay.
We good? Tyrese Maxey or Tyrese Halliburton?
Maxey.
I agree. I started low. I started low. Relax. Tyrese Maxey or De'Aaron Fox?
Maxey.
Okay. Tyrese Maxey or Devin Booker?
Right now, Devin Booker.
Next 5 years. Next 5 years.
I know.
Are we assuming Booker goes back to his real position? Because
for me right now, it's Devin Booker, but that gap is fastly closing.
I'm going to go Booker as well. I'm going to agree with Cottrell. I think that gap is closed significantly, but I think part of that is not necessarily Booker regressing. It's how they're using Devin Booker.
At some point, you got to put the ball in the bucket. You shouldn't get swept with Durant and Beal against the Timberwolves. I'm not saying it's all his fault, but
I'm not saying you should get swept. But I mean, he's barely scoring 20. Durant scoring less. So, I mean, that team is just not being run right.
I'm taking Maxey over Book. Next 5 years, Tyrese Maxey or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Shai. He's not there yet.
I don't think he's there either. But the question is next 5 years. I think that he'll.
Well, Shai's still young, though.
I think there'll be a year where Maxey's better than Shai, but for the next 5 years, I'll take Shai.
Yeah, I have to stay with Shai on that one.
And then the last one, which I think I know the answer to, but Tyrese Maxey or Jaylen Brown?
Maxey.
I'll go Maxey as well. I think Jaylen is kind of what Jaylen is at this point. Like I don't know. I don't think Jaylen has another
if you
level.
guys both take him over Jaylen Brown, I'm just going to try my luck. Tyrese Maxey or Jason Tatum?
Tatum.
I just tried my luck. I was rolling the dice. All right, I was shooting them out there.
Okay, one more roll the dice at the craps table. You should have walked away.
Yeah, now you just busted.
Well, Eric Dempsey just said Tyrese Maxey or Jalen Brunson.
Maxey.
Brunson.
for at least the next 3 years, Brunson is going to be better than Maxey.
I think so too. But I love Maxey.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the closeout series real quick, and then we'll end on a closeout series I want to talk about. Cottrell, handwritten apology will be okay, whatever you want to go with. Thunder, make easy work out of it's just very simple. Thunder, roll. Okay. No comments there, right? Just simple apology.
Sure. I apologize, you guys. I was wrong there.
I'm just Minnesota looked really good. Can we talk about just for a minute what Phoenix is going to do? What Phoenix is going to look like next year? Because I don't want to go nuts on this conversation because they better blow that shit up because
I mean, Kevin Durant is already fully into his behind the scenes. Yes, correct. It started very quickly this year. He is not going to be in that team next year. I don't think they give up Booker because he's still the youngest and you can build around him. That team with that much, talent in those three, but no bench and really kind of no depth or, big people per se. It just got shoved in your face that it's not going to work. They played a team that plays great team defense, plays as a team, spreads the ball around. They got mauled. So Bradley Beal or Durant have to go, and I still say Durant's the more valuable piece. I don't think anybody's giving you anything great for Bradley Beal. So
doesn't matter.
And I don't think Durant wants to be there. Well, that's right. They can't even trade Beal, can they? So
he didn't waive his no trade clause. So
yeah. So it's gonna be Durant. Durant's gonna be on somebody else's team next year.
I will make a statement and we'll lead right into the next series because it's going to lead into listen, I'll bet anybody wants to take it. We'll go $20, 25. We'll go a lap. We'll go a cheesesteak. I don't care. Something stupid. But I will bet you that next year, either Kevin Durant or LeBron James will be a Golden State Warrior. One or the other. It's going to Golden State. I think LeBron actually I think it's LeBron, if I'm being honest with you. I think LeBron goes to Golden State, but I think one of them is going to Golden State.
I 100% agree, so I'm not taking that bet. And I actually agree with you as well. I think it's going to be LeBron.
Oh, I don't think either one of them go because I don't think Kevin would go because I think he has too much pride in himself to go. Not saying like he cares what other people think, but I'm saying like I don't think he wants to go back to a situation where like Draymond was like, hey, like you said like we were good without you. Like we don't need you anymore. Like I don't think he wants to go back to that situation and be like, all right, guys, like I'm back, like I'm here to help again.
If it's Kevin Durant, I think they trade Draymond Green.
That could be interesting. That'd be very interesting.
I think Draymond's part of the package.
LeBron, I don't think goes though. I think we'll get LeBron later, but
I think it's LeBron. They've talked about it for too long, and that would if you just want to if you're just big, I don't think it does.
In my opinion,
how
Jonathan Kuminga, I think, is turning into a guy that I'm not saying you build your franchise around, but if you make him the number 2 option and get the right pieces around Steph, I think they can go back to being competitive again. You bring in a guy like LeBron, that instantly is going to stunt his growth there. And you're basically in the same spot that you were in this year, just a couple seeds higher. And LeBron's going to be retiring soon. Steph's going to be retiring soon. You have no plan for the future. I just don't think they should go that direction.
Go all in for one more.
I agree. It's worth it. You're gonna have to literally blow that up at some point anyway. Like whenever you're never going to trade Steph, so you're gonna let him play until he says he's done or until the wheels fall off. And so like that is a God-given fact. He's going to retire. He's going to play every game of his career on that team. So you're stuck in that position anyway. So to Gene's point, if you have the ability to get LeBron as a free agent, I don't think he stuns Kuminga. If anything, I think he's going to make him better. If you have to look at it unbiasedly, neither one of those teams are in any position to make a run as they are constructed right now. I don't want to hear about the BS Lakers and the play-in, blah, blah, blah. You saw what happened when they got in the real playoffs.
Oh,
that team is not a championship team. And I'm not saying it's LeBron's fault. I'm not saying it's AD's fault. But they have nothing else. They have nothing else that puts them over any of the top elite teams in the West. They are not a championship caliber team, and Golden State is not either as well right now. They're going to lose Clay. You're sitting there, to Cottrell's point, you're sitting there with Steph, Kuminga, and Draymond Green. Like, they both need help. That's just the facts of it. If you're being unbiased, you're not being, a rider for either Steph, LeBron, or anything else. That's just the way we sit right now.
So let's talk about the Lakers for a minute, because I'm going to take a couple swipes at LeBron, and he makes it really tough not to. And, listen, I'm just going to throw the bear paw out there. Just a little smack, nothing crazy. For him to get in that post-game interview and say, we've been injured all year, and you've seen what we look like in the play-in. We were healthy then. Dude, I can't take the excuses. We're all injured in the playoffs. Everyone's hurt. No one's healthy. Porzingis is now out for the Celtics. Jamal Murray missed a game for the Nuggets. Everyone's hurt, dude. Everyone. It's the playoffs, bro. You're after an 82-game season. No one's just there. Karl Anthony Towns just came back from a really bad injury from Minnesota. Like, it's everybody's hurt, dude. Everybody. Julius Randle's not playing for the Knicks. I'm so sick of the excuses. You know what the excuse should have been? We had 4 10-point leads versus the Nuggets and lost 3 of those 4 games.
One was 19.
One was 20. It was over. You know what I mean? I cannot take the Lakers making excuses for losing games the way they lost them and say it's injuries. I can't take it.
And this is one of the reasons why people take swipes at LeBron, for lack of a better term. He could easily. The funny thing was, somebody posted on Twitter the other day, like, literally Michael next to Kobe next to LeBron, and you listen to Michael's interview. Kobe's was almost identical, and then it's LeBron. It's this, it's that, it's that, it's that. Like, the guy, like, I don't know. It's kind of what you said. He makes it easy to, like, I don't want to say dislike him, because if that's the only reason you don't like him, you shouldn't dislike him or hate him for that. But it makes it really easy to poke at him, man. I mean, he's great. Like, it is what it is. He's one of the best to ever do it. But at the same time, man, he's not Kobe. He's not Michael. He's soft. And I hate to say it. That's what it is. Like, don't. You could have came in that press conference and said a million other things, and they all would have been better answers than what he said. And then it was like, man, it's this, it's that. It's just basketball. I'm going to go home and just hang out with my friends and family, figure out what I'm going to do. I really don't care. We won the play-in. It's fine. Like, no, dude. Like, no. Just be like, we weren't good enough. I'm not going to sit up here and make excuses. I'm just going to tell you how it is. We weren't good enough. Denver beat us. That's all he's got to say.
Completely agree. And Cottrell, being the biggest LeBron fan that I know, that's not, listen, it's not the biggest LeBron fan I know, but the biggest one that's on the show. And even Cottrell finds it tough sometimes to defend LeBron James. And listen, I got to applaud Cottrell. He's super, at least he's open. At least he will be unbiased at times talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, if certain things happen, like, I will definitely get on him. Like, when the non-challenge play happened, like, right away, I was like, I mean, this, you can't do that there. They end up giving the bucket to Jamal Murray. And, right away, I'm like, I already know how this is about to go for him. Like, you're making it too easy for everybody. As far as the press conference goes, personally, like, how I look at it is, he could have, come out there and said, like, hey, the Nuggets just were the better team, blah, blah, blah. But we know that, especially at this point in his career, he's going to say whatever the hell is on his mind. So for him to go out there and just be like, hey, like, injuries played a part, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that was the right thing to say by any means. Should they have potentially won the series or still be playing now, even with all those injuries? My answer is yes. Like if you don't blow some of those leads, if you get help, I mean, I feel like everybody in the world knew yesterday that Jamal Murray was going to ultimately take the last shot. He was going to, hunt for the switch, take the last shot. And you don't send help that direction. It's like, hey, fool me once, shame on you. But fool me can't get fooled again. And in this case, the Lakers did. So like you got to know going into it that you're at fault. And yes, injuries did play a part. Would Jared Vanderbilt have helped with his great defense in the series? Yeah, probably. But you can't go to the press conference and say that. But at the end of the day, I know at this point in his career, Bron's going to say whatever the hell is on his mind. Like, I don't care about it as much, but I know people, like, I can definitely understand the perspective of people like, hey, great players don't do this. Like, you don't hear about people, like, you don't hear about, Kobe, MJ, those guys talking like this after a loss in the series.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not, listen, the LeBron thing, it's just frustrating because, like watch this, ready? I'm going to play a game with you real quick. Control, is LeBron a top 5 player in NBA history?
Yes.
Do you think he's the best player in NBA history?
Yes.
Okay. Is he a top 5 killer in NBA history? No. The answer is no.
When you say killer,
no, exactly what I mean. I mean Michael. I mean Kobe. I mean
when it comes.
Joe was going through the list real quick, trying to see where I could put him in.
Listen. For me, when it comes to making game tying and or game winning shots, he has that. But he will never take that dog out of anybody. He won't be like, I am going to take your soul and I'm going to talk to you while I'm doing it. So when it comes to those last second shots, I talk about it all the time. I feel like he's underrated in that department. You can go through the countless number of shots that he's made to win games or to tie games and things like that. But he's just not going to be the guy to talk to you while he's doing it and or have that like attitude about him. I think his game winners do fly under the radar.
It's such a lie. Someone tell Alex that he's lying to himself. The best team ever assembled was either the 98, 96 Bulls or the 2017, 18 Warriors that were the ones with Kevin Durant. He didn't come back from 3-1 versus them. It's not the best team ever assembled. Don't lie to yourself. The best 2 teams in basketball history are the KD Warriors and the Rodman, Pippen, Jordan Bulls. Don't lie to yourself. Sorry. He's not a top 5 killer. Like, let's stop that, right? And I was trying to give you a point for objectivity. He's still sat on that friggin'
He's got more game winners than the people in your top 5 is my point.
I don't care who has more game winners.
That's fine. That's fine. But I'm saying you have to, when you think of killers though.
Who has the most who has the most interceptions thrown all time?
That has nothing to do with this argument.
Well, bro, he has the most game winners. He shot the most game winners.
Okay, who has the best percentage in those? Like, LeBron's had the better percentage between Kobe and Jordan. Like, whatever way you want to break it down, it's also going to come down to LeBron leading in that category.
Kobe and Jordan. I'm not going to lie to you, and I hate doing
mentality is a different thing than actual.
But that's what he's talking about when he says killer. That's what he's talking about.
Is he a top 5 killer mentality?
No.
Okay.
No.
Top 10, top 20, top 50? Top 100, top 150.
No, that's not who he is.
I'm sorry. And Magic wasn't a killer either, so don't lie to yourself. Magic was a softie too. And a lot of people forget that, but Magic was not. Magic was super talented.
There
and by the way,
stars that aren't killers.
Exactly. I agree with you. But I'll tell you who killers were. Kobe, Michael, Bird, Duncan, Iverson. They were killers. Reggie's
a killer.
All right, so let's move on. Got a couple other series to get into. Don't want to completely pass over the Cavaliers Magic series. It's going into Game 6 in Orlando. But I will say this. If you've watched that series, this is like it's like a play-in tournament to who gets beat by Boston very badly. Because both of those teams have played terrible basketball. The Magic can't shoot and shot 33 three-pointers the other night. I don't understand why we're shooting 33 three-pointers when you can't shoot. You're one of the worst shooting teams in all basketball. And it proved when they went 9 for 32 from 3 versus Cleveland. And Cleveland runs the most stagnant offense I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't even understand how, like, it's almost like, oh, Donovan Mitchell, go figure out something to do. Then give it to Garland. You figure out something to do. It is weird. Now, the one thing I will give credit to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Jarrett Allen got hurt. And Evan Mobley played center, and he played a hell of a center for them the other night. So let me give credit where credit is due there. I think that no matter what happens in this series, they're both playing in like the Eastern Conference Finals warm-up series for Boston.
I don't disagree with your sentiment about, I think both teams are horribly overmatched. I give Orlando credit for making this a series. I think after the first 2 games, I think we all kind of thought Cleveland was just going to run away and hide. And, I think Orlando listened to the show and heard what you said about them. And I think they took it a little personally. and they went down and won 2 games. And, Cleveland won game 5. And now we get back down to game for 6. So
Cleveland had game 4-1. And then I don't know what the hell happened in the fourth quarter.
Third quarter. Scored 9 points in the third quarter.
Just stop playing basketball.
8. They were up at 8 at halftime. Scored 9 points in the third quarter. That shouldn't happen ever in the playoffs. And it's not like Orlando was playing crazy defense either. Look, my thing with the Cavs is I got off of it too fast. Before the series, I told you guys, I said I thought the series was going to go 7 games because I've seen this Cavs team play down the stretch, and this is what they are. Those first 2 games caught me by surprise, and I started drinking the Kool-Aid. But here we are going into a Game 6 situation, and I get it. Jarrett Allen didn't play yesterday, and he had probably been their best player this entire series so far. So I give him credit for overcoming that? Sure, absolutely. But at the end of the day with this Orlando team, Paolo Banchero is literally the only player that you really have to worry about game in and game out. I like Franz. I like Mo. I like Jalen Suggs. I like the players they have on their team. Paolo is literally the only guy on their team that can make any difference in this series. And they're just letting him have his way. You have Isaac Okoro, who I feel like is a great defender. I feel like how you guys used to feel about Matisse Thybulle when he was in Philadelphia. And he's having issues. You throw Evan Mobley, who's considered, one of the best defenders in the league and was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversations last year. You throw him on him, it doesn't matter. Jarrett Allen, obviously, is a great defender. You throw him on him, it doesn't matter. I just think it's tough to sustain this kind of success and the success that they've had, even in the games that they've won. You're not scoring the ball enough. This isn't the 90s. I know, more series have been more defensive and you've seen lower scoring games, but if you can't consistently score more than 100 points, you're basically the Miami Heat with just 2 other actual all-stars that are in your lineup. It's going to be a nightmare next series.
I completely agree with you. Can't get too far off base. We do have another weird series that we got to talk about. The Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Indiana Pacers are up 3-1. They're playing a game in Milwaukee. No Dame, no Giannis. Series is over. Indiana's going to win this basketball game. And here comes Bobby Portis. Bobby friggin' Portis.
And Pat Bev.
He had 13.
And 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
Put up Tyrese Halliburton.
I'll put it to you this way, man. I gotta give credit where credit's due, man. That Milwaukee Bucks team battled yesterday. They looked really good. I think they'll ultimately lose the series in 6 to the Pacers, but man, that was just different to watch. Everybody from Indiana showed up, beat up, and just didn't play basketball. And Milwaukee was like, nope, we're not done yet. We are not done. Pat Bev was a plus 36 from the field. He was plus 36, plus minus. That is insane.
I think the one thing, too, with that series, it almost makes you wonder, that game 4, Bobby Portis got ejected early in that game. And obviously, Damian Giannis didn't play that game either. But even then, the game was still relatively close. I know Indiana also pulled away towards the end, but Bobby Portis, I said it last week, Bobby Portis is going to be the X factor in this series. And I still believe that to be the case. Now, I think the Bucks don't have it in them to win 3 straight without Giannis or Dame. Maybe one of them can come back for game 6. I haven't seen any updates with the statuses of that, but this Pacers team, even if they win this series, I think the same could be said. What we just said about the last series, the same could be said for the Sixers or the Knicks. I think whoever wins that series is going to be representing, the other half of the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that Pacers team has shown me that Pascal Siakam is literally the only guy that you can consistently count on. And I get it. Hallie hit the game winner a couple games ago, and he's had big shots, but he hasn't been consistent at all in this series. Everything has gone through Siakam, and I just don't think that Pacers team will have anything for the Sixers or for the Knicks.
I agree 100%. I think you're looking at the winners, Sixers, Knicks versus the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Got to talk about another series. Shally, I want to go to you. Have you been keeping up with this Dallas Mavericks Clippers series? I mean, tonight you got game 5, and I'll say this. Let me be very clear. The Clippers are 2-0 in games Kawhi Leonard has not played. 0-2 in games Kawhi Leonard has played. I will say, I got to give credit where credit's due. Your boy James Harden has had a very good series in the 2 games Kawhi Leonard has not played. Here's what's going to happen in this series, though. And Shally's going to agree with me. He's going to back me up 100%. Luka will not allow that Mavericks team to lose, and James Harden will not allow that Clippers team to win. It's factual. When we get to game 6 and game 7, I'm telling you right now, you'll find out Luka will hit some shots that'll be out of this world, and James Harden will make some turnovers that you're like, what the hell was that?
If you are a Clippers fan, you kind of have to be waiting for the other foot to drop here with him. He's playing out of his mind right now. And listen, he did it with the Sixers too. He played like that for spurts, but then there always came the game where he was terrible. They're game 5 tonight, so there's 3 games left. If he has a horrible game in one of those 3, assuming Kawhi, does not come back at all.
Kawhi's done. They already rolled him out. He's done. That's the series.
For the series. Okay,
yeah,
so
right for the year.
You're going to be hard pressed to find anybody that's going to probably pick James Harden to outplay Luka for 2 of the next 3 games. And I'm not saying he has to put up the same amount of points or anything like that, like Luka's going to. That's just unreasonable. But he's probably going to lay a stinker somewhere, and if he does, that's going to be the game that the Clippers are going to lose. It'll turn the series. It's kind of the same song, different type, different year for the Clippers with Kawhi just never being healthy. But, I do agree with Gene. I think Dallas is going to advance.
Yeah, and I said this exact same thing before the series started. I felt like Kawhi was going to be at the spot where, he might play the first couple of games, look great while doing it. And I know they lost the games that he's played, but I just knew that it wouldn't be sustainable. Knee issues, you don't just all of a sudden, recover from that overnight. So knew that would be the case with them. But I think the other thing too is that with this Mavs team, we talk about Luka as much as we want to. Kyrie Irving has been the best player for the Mavs in this series so far. Kyrie has been, the focal point of the offense. And Luka even came out and said he feels like he's letting Kyrie down. Like the fact that the Mavs were down 31 points in game 4, they came all the way back because Kyrie never flinched. He's a guy who's won a championship before. Luka's a guy who has, tons of experience playing, in Europe, like in big games, things like that. And even in the playoffs in the NBA, like team never flinched. And I think, we talk about Kawhi being hurt now and not playing this series. I think Kyrie Irving has definitely played his way into the discussion of being on Team USA in the summertime. I know we're talking about this series for now, but Kyrie's done everything you could ask for him. He's kept his head down, stayed quiet throughout the year, haven't heard anything bad from him all year, and he's playing great basketball right now. That's a guy who I want on Team USA if it comes down to winning and losing basketball games.
Who are you kicking off the team for Kyrie?
Well, Kawhi is going to be not playing anymore, so that opens up a spot. Tyrese Halliburton has been playing bad. Drew Holiday shouldn't have a guaranteed spot to begin with. Like, I think those are three guys. I think those are three guys that you could put Kyrie in over.
No, it's because of the way he plays. There's like, listen, I'm not saying Drew Holiday's a better player than Kyrie Irving, but at the same time, you look at these teams and sometimes they don't succeed. You can put 5 superstars on the floor. If they don't play well, they're not going to win. You know, Drew Holiday is a guy to play with egos like that doesn't have to score a point every game. You can tell me till you're blue in the face, Kyrie Irving's not going to play that way. Not saying he's going to be a team disruptor or anything like that, but Kyrie Irving's going to go out and shoot and do certain things that Drew Holiday will go out on the floor and be like, I don't need to shoot the ball. That's not my job. So there's a difference. So again, not saying he's a better player, but there's a reason why he's included on that roster.
I get that, but I'll say it like this, and it's not by any means the same comparison, but the dream team should have had Isaiah Thomas on the roster. Make no bones about that. I don't need glue guys. Give me the best 12, make them earn it. Give me the best 12 in the country and go out there and play basketball. Kyrie's played with a lot of these guys before. He's played with Kevin Durant. He's played with Bron. Like, he knows how to play with other guys. He's been on Team USA before.
Don't want to play with them, just to be clear.
I disagree with that.
I mean, you can disagree with it all you want, but Kevin Durant couldn't run fast enough from him in Brooklyn. And he basically threw LeBron James under the bus. And as much as LeBron wants to tell you that feud is done and that they're cool now, you're never going to remember. You're never going to forget the way someone disrespects you when they're leaving.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think the Kevin Durant thing is also because him, James Harden, and Kyrie were never on the court at the same time. Yeah. Kevin Durant was trying to win basketball games. He's like, I can't deal with, vaccine Kyrie and James Harden not playing. Like, I got to go try and win a championship. Like, I don't think that was a personal thing. If he could have had it his way, I'm sure he'd rather play with Kyrie than Bradley Beal as his point guard. So
that's fair. Real quick, guys, before we end NBA, we got to end NBA. Just give me a quick series prediction for Timberwolves versus Nuggets. That starts on Saturday. It's going to be game 1. Just give me a series prediction. I got the Nuggets in 6.
I'll go Nuggets at 6 as well. I think that's not the best matchup for Minnesota.
I'm going to go Nuggets in 5 again. I'm going to go Nuggets in 5.
And then just for fun, I want to see if you guys, how well you guys do. I have the top 5 points leaders per game in the postseason and the top 5 assist leaders per game in the postseason. I want to see how you guys do. So points per game postseason. Give me the top 5.
Jalen Brunson's up there.
He's number 1.
Brunson,
Maxi's 2.
Maxey.
Edwards.
Ant's 5.
Embiid had 19 last game, but he had been balling before that. Embiid's got to be up there. He had a 50-point game.
Embiid is 4.
He has to be there.
You're just missing number 3. I'll give you a hint. He didn't play in game 5.
Didn't play in game 5. Fuck, didn't play in game 5. Jared. Oh, Dame.
Oh, yeah.
All right, assist leaders. This is a little bit tougher. Let's see how you guys do here.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Number 2.
What the fuck is number 1?
Brunson on that list too.
Number 5.
Mike Conley?
Nope, not on the list.
Oh, Joker. Joker's got to be on the list.
Joker, yeah.
So you're missing 3 and 4. After you get your second strike, I'll give you a hint. You have 1 strike right now.
Is LeBron on that list?
Number 3.
Brown.
Number 4 is the last one.
Yep. 8.5 per game.
8 point. I'm literally going through everything. Darius Garland?
Nope, that's 2 strikes. His series is he's playing tonight. That's your hint.
So it's got to be, I'd imagine Boston or is it Luka? I think it's Luka.
Harden.
It's Harden. Luka Doncic.
Luka.
It's number 4. All right. Good NBA talk. NFL draft happened last week. And by the way, let me just be clear. I am super happy that what the Philadelphia Eagles did. I don't want to brag too much about the Eagles. This isn't an Eagles show, but we got to talk about the top of the draft and the pick heard around the world. And I just really want to get in a fight with Cottrell right now because Cottrell's pissing me off. Cottrell and Chris, and I talked to Chris this morning. Chris didn't piss me off, but like, look, guys, let me make something very clear. There's a reason the Atlanta Falcons got an F for a grade from me. And it's Michael Penix Jr. picking him at 8. Not that Michael Penix Jr. will not be a good quarterback in the NFL. No, that's not it. But I'm going to give Cottrell the floor to tell me why this isn't a terrible pick. Because it is an awful pick. It is an awful, awful pick. And I'm telling you right now, it is like historically awful. And I talked to Chris this morning, and I think I turned him. I don't know. We'll find out. But I want to hear Cottrell's point of view, and I will turn him next.
So, I mean, just thinking about it here. Before the draft, just roster as is, who would you have had winning the NFC South?
The Falcons.
Okay. After the draft, who do you have winning the NFC South?
The Falcons.
Okay. So you're saying that the Falcons are going to be a playoff team next year.
Yep. That's going to be a home playoff game.
Okay. And they're going to get a home playoff game.
You got it.
With the way that their roster is set up right now, would you imagine that? And again, I know things can change in the NFL offseason very fast, but would you go out on a limb and say the Falcons would be your favorite to win the NFC South 2 years from now?
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, you're a playoff team. You're a playoff team back-to-back years.
Yep.
You're going to be picking in what? The 20s, potentially, depending on how far you go in the playoff. You're not going to have a chance to go get your guy at the quarterback position. And look, I understand the money with Kirk Cousins. You gave him $100 million guaranteed. I get it. It's a lot of money. You're investing in things like that. But if you actually look at the structure of that deal, in 2026, they can get off of that contract. Would only be $12 million in dead cap. And it would actually open up, I believe it was like $27.5 million for him in cap space. Getting rid of a quarterback for $12 million and then having a quarterback on a rookie deal still, it opens up so much for you. And at that point, Michael Penix, look, people keep bringing up Michael Penix's age like he's just this ancient quarterback. I get it. He's older. Right now, he's 23. He's about to turn 24 in a week or two or whatever. By the time 2026 rolls around, he's going to be a 26-year-old quarterback that's got to sit behind a vet, and he's going to have a good team built around him, and they're going to be able to add more pieces around him because he's still going to be on a rookie deal. So for Atlanta, I'll say at first I was very stunned by the pick, but the more I look into it, I think Atlanta did a great job of setting themselves up for the future and getting their guy as opposed to waiting a couple years from now. Not to mention Kirk Cousins is coming off of an Achilles injury. And, if you don't believe in him, people may ask, why'd you give him $100 million guaranteed? I'm right there with you. But for whatever reasons, if Kirk Cousins comes back and he's not even what he was before the injury, now you got an out. You just have an expensive ass backup quarterback, and then you cut him in 2026.
All right, so you did 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So I'm going to get my 2 minutes and 12 seconds, and then we're going to go to Judge Shalley. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right.
I know Shalley's already got it. He's set though in his mind.
No, he's not. He listened to everything you said, and he's very non-biased. And he normally picks you in these arguments anyway. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break it down for you why you're wrong. Okay.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question real quick. Now I think it makes a lot more sense for the Atlanta Falcons to do this if like Kirk Cousins was on their roster. He had 4 years left on his contract, $180 million left on his contract. He's been there. He had the Achilles tear, and you're thinking about moving on from him. They signed the goddamn contract this offseason. They signed him this offseason. 4 years, $180 million. Now, you could have got Justin Fields for cheaper, and he's a younger quarterback, and you didn't have to use the 8th pick in the draft. That's besides the point. I think Justin Fields is the better quarterback than Michael Penix, period. But that's not where I'm going to start. I'm going to make it easy for you, right? You signed Kirk Cousins to a $180 million contract. Last year, the Atlanta Falcons ranked 19th in defense, 25th at pass rush. Dallas Turner is sitting there for you at 8. He's there. Here you go. Now, your argument is, well, they're going to be in the playoffs anyway, and they're not going to win the Super Bowl with that roster. Do you think the Atlanta Falcons are telling their fan base, well, we're going to make the playoffs, but we're not going to win the Super Bowl? What they have is they have a top 10 pick at wide receiver. They have a top 10 pick at tight end. They have a top 10 pick at running back. And now you have a quarterback that can facilitate the offense. Their secondary last year was 9th. 9th. Do you know why they were struggled? Because they did not have a pass rush. If a team makes the playoffs and they get at least one home playoff game, that's what we're all admitting to. They're going to get at least one home playoff game. Can the Atlanta Falcons win 13 games with that roster in that division? The answer is yes. They could win 13 games in that division. They could sweep that division with a quarterback and the roster that they have, especially if they go out and add a pass rusher like Dallas Turner. The Michael Penix Jr. pick makes no sense to me. If you want to take Penix at 8, that's fine. Don't sign Kirk Cousins for $100 million. Oh, and by the way, if you really wanted to compete, you could have gave up a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick and had Justin Fields. Instead, you invested the 8th overall pick on Michael Penix Jr. when he's not even better than the guy that just got traded to Pittsburgh for a 6th. It's embarrassing. It's one of the worst picks in the history of football. Michael Penix Jr., a guy that people slotted to be at the end of the 1st round and moved up because teams' needs in quarterback, was drafted 8th overall. Dallas Turner's a better player, better fit, and the Atlanta Falcons could have competed. They could have competed. They have a running back, they have a wide receiver, they have an offensive line, they have a tight end, and they had a defense. They have a secondary.
All right, let's get some rebuttal here before we take it over to Shally.
I'm fine.
All right, so with Dallas, are you saying that Dallas Turner would have been the difference between the Falcons potentially competing for a Super Bowl and just being a playoff team?
No, but they can compete for a Super Bowl this year. They can compete for a Super Bowl. They can play in the playoffs and get playoff experience this year. And then next year, on Kirk Cousins' 2nd year of his contract, they could easily go out and win a Super Bowl. They could easily get another player in there. They could easily – I don't think they were competing for a Super Bowl regardless, but that's not what you're selling your fan base. Atlanta's not going and telling, well, our goal is to make the playoffs. That's why we spent $180 million on Kirk Cousins.
Well, Gene – you say it on the show all the time. When you start trying to please the fans, you're going to become one. So you can't just go off of what the fan base wants and things like that. And if that's the case, you're going to still have Kirk Cousins this year, go to the playoffs, because we agree that we think they're going to win the NFC South. They're going to go to the playoffs. Next year, why can't they use their 1st-round pick on a pass rusher? Who knows? The pass, we saw the slide on defensive players this year. They might, mess around and get a guy that's emerged in a talent like Dallas Turner next year at pick 20. Like, we don't know how that situation is going to fall out. Not to mention their next 3 picks in 2, 3, and 4, they used on defensive linemen. So I think they still address the need, and they got 2 of the 3 guys I actually really like in Braylon Trice from Washington and then Brandon Dorlus, who I did a breakdown on.
Braylon Trice isn't a great pass rusher. He's a good run stopper.
I get it. But Brandon Dorlus is another guy who I did the breakdown on Real Recognizes Real, and I'm a big fan of his as well. Like, I guess the end of the day for me is that you talk about bringing in Justin Fields. The reality of it is that Justin Fields would now be on his 5th option. So you would have to either invest money into him and just not know what he's going to be, or you bring in a guy like Michael Penix Jr. on a rookie contract. And I get it. He was slotted to go later in the 1st round. But again, the reality of the situation is that the Raiders, the Seahawks, and I believe it was the Broncos were looking to trade up to get to like 10, and they were going to trade with the Jets, get to 10, and take Michael Penix Jr. Like, he was the number 1 quarterback on a lot of those teams.
Fair, Control, that's fair. But if they draft a pass rusher this year and they get another need next year, it allows them to get closer to a Super Bowl. You sign Kirk Cousins to a contract, 4 years, $180 million. And then instead of giving, and by the way, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite because you were the first person on this show to talk about how the Packers drafting Jordan Love and not getting him a better player to be in that situation for them to compete for a Super Bowl. That's hypocritical what you're doing.
You are,
and hold on. Last but not least, let me just finish my point, and I'll pause. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you with a straight face to answer it.
Okay.
Next 2 years, 3 years, who you think's a better quarterback, Justin Fields or Michael Penix Jr.?
I mean, I think Justin is the better quarterback, but if he's not playing,
listen.
Okay, that's fair. But to your point, though, I mean, on paper, on the surface, you're right. You know, that does seem hypocritical. But two things here. Kirk Cousins is not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers on a team, you're in Super Bowl contention. I thought the Packers were in a spot that they could potentially win the Super Bowl. They had just lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on some bullshit play call at the end of the game where they decided to kick a field goal instead of trying to go score a touchdown. And then they go and say, hey, we're not going to try and build this team up now. We're going to draft the quarterback to be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. The Atlanta Falcons have been 7-10 for the last 3 years. I think the situations are completely different. The other thing is that while Jordan Love has looked good in the NFL like this last year, as a prospect in general, when both of them are coming out, I value Michael Penix Jr. more than I value Jordan Love coming out of college. So that's also part of the reason why my stance is a little bit different.
I'll pause. I already won, so I don't even need the rebuttal anymore. Shall we?
So this is where I stand on it. Cottrell, when they signed Kirk Cousins, did Atlanta know about Michael Penix Jr.?
What do you mean? Like, did they know they were going to draft him still?
They knew he was a good quarterback already, correct?
Correct.
So they had to know with even the early projections that if they really wanted him at 8, they could have got him at 8, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no reason if you're trying to compete to win divisions and play playoff games, maybe a Super Bowl. I mean, I think we're throwing that term around way too loosely for that team right now. But here's what it boils down to me. I have to side with Gene, and this is the biggest reason why. If you really valued him that much, then don't sign Kirk Cousins. Keep that money and go bolster the defense. Go maybe bring in another wide receiver. Here's my thing with it. You keep saying, 2026. Well, what do you think the likelihood is if Kirk Cousins comes out next year and wins the division, gets a home playoff game? Let's just say for the sake of it, they lose. Okay? They win the division again next year and win a playoff game. Now you're coming up to the final year of Bijan's rookie deal. London, all those guys. The defense is going to be better. They're all still there. You then think they're handing it over to Michael Penix Jr., paying off Kirk Cousins, and handing it off to a guy who has no NFL snaps at that point.
So here's the thing. You're not wrong. They wouldn't hand it over. But when you win, when you make mistakes like that in the first round, the shit just goes away. How often on this show do we talk about Trey Lance being the 3rd overall pick in San Francisco, giving up the king's ransom, moving up to go get him? We don't talk about it because San Francisco has been consistently winning.
Okay, so what point do you think Michael Penix Jr. beats out Kirk Cousins in?
I'm saying if they just go to the playoffs, they're just the playoff team. There are never any serious thoughts about them doing anything in the playoffs. I think by year 3, it's like, hey, do we pay him $50 million again this year to be our quarterback? Or do we roll with Penix Jr. and not deal with that much of a drop-off and have him still
you don't know
be the
that
quarterback
yet.
of this team?
You don't know that yet because you have a guy that's going to.
You didn't, and you didn't know that with Jordan
Love.
You didn't know that.
Oh, let me finish. So you're rolling the dice on a team that is then in the middle of a win now window with guys, high value guys, coming up with the last year of their deals. That if you do roll the dice, they hand it over to Penix Jr. and it's a disaster, they're gone.
Correct.
And you're going right back into this. And then on top of that, you're gonna buy out Kirk Cousins and let the better quarterback walk out of town. It just doesn't make sense, dude. It just doesn't make sense.
You're 100% right there, and it is a gamble. But at the end of the day, We saw you bring up the Green Bay situation. We saw what they did with Aaron Rodgers. They could have gave Aaron Rodgers, and I get it, at a point he wanted to leave town, but they could have gave Aaron Rodgers $55 million to be the quarterback again of the future. But they said, hey, we drafted Jordan Love. We think he's the heir apparent, and that's just the dice roll that we're willing to take. They were 9-8 with Aaron Rodgers. In the following year, Jordan Love's first year being the full-time starter, he took them to the playoffs and they won a playoff game. I'm not saying Jordan Love is better than Aaron Rodgers by any means, but sometimes you got to roll the dice. Sometimes it doesn't always go in your favor. And if it doesn't go in your favor,
you can't roll the dice at 8, bro. I'm sorry. You can't roll the dice at 8.
This is different if they came back in and got into 24 and he was still sitting there okay, cool. Then you roll the dice. I mean, I would have went with, as far as this. Kirk Cousins, again, kind of similar to Aaron Rodgers. He gets banged up a lot. You know what I mean? And maybe he gets, maybe if you would have used that argument. But it's 8, dude. You do have a potentially, franchise type, changing or defining guy in Dallas Turner sitting there. Or if you really weren't that, or if you're not that sold on Turner, then move back. Like you said, there's 8 other teams that were trying to get up there to get either Penix or Bo Nix. Then move back and get more draft capital.
That's a point that I didn't even think about. That's a point
it's just.
Could you imagine if they collected assets and moved back to 15 and still got Dallas Turner?
And now you have Kirk Cousins. So, you have a team that's probably still going to make the playoffs this year, and now you probably have an extra 1 next year, or maybe an extra 2 or something like that, and you're making the team better. Everything makes more sense than except for what they did.
So I think the one part that you're talking about, what they could have done and gathering pieces and things like that. Well, let's talk about the flip side of it. If they do go out and do that, and what could have been bad on that end. Kirk Cousins has never been a top 10 quarterback his entire duration in the NFL. He is 35 years old, coming off of a torn Achilles. What if he doesn't even come back and he's not even the top 15 to 20 quarterback that he was before he got hurt? Then you're stuck paying him $180 million with no insurance plan.
But I can hear that point if they didn't sign him this offseason. They signed him this offseason.
But it's essentially a 2-year deal. If it works out for you and Michael
Penix, $100 million.
That's fine. I understand it's $100 million. If they go and make it to the playoffs these next 2 years, like we think that they will, with the team that's assembled around them, I'm saying it doesn't matter if you're winning. If the Falcons are winning and they go to the playoffs and they win a couple games and, they're potentially competing to go to a Super Bowl, we're not talking about them making this awful move for Michael Penix Jr. in the first round, because we talk about the San Francisco 49ers. We're not talking about, what if they would have went up and got, and I don't even remember who came out that year
as a mistake pick, as being this was a mistake, but we won anyway. That's a terrible argument.
No, I'm not saying that they won anyway, but what I'm saying is we don't care about Trey Lance being a dud or a miss and them trading. They used the number 3. They used the number 3 overall pick for him, and they traded him for a 4th round pick to Dallas to be their backup. To be the backup quarterback.
49ers fans definitely care about wasting that pick and that capital.
Oh, of course they do, but they're not talking about it now oh man, what if Trey Lance would have actually been the savior here, because they got Brock Purdy now. They're not thinking about Trey Lance and what could have been.
They're thinking about what they could have added to that team.
But they almost won a Super Bowl with what they have now. That's what I'm saying. They weren't thinking about
because they got lucky with Brock Purdy.
Could you imagine if they would have added? I'm not trying to be an asshole. Could you imagine in that draft if they would have added Sauce Gardner and have him be a lockdown quarterback instead of Trey Lance?
Of course. My point is that we have never had that conversation until right now.
All right.
Super Bowl happened in February. We haven't had the conversation until now.
We're an hour 20. We went real long on this Penix Jr. conversation. I have a fun activity planned out for you guys. I'm going to read you every pick of the first round, first 10, second 10, last 12. And I want you to tell me best fit and worst fit out of the top, each 10. Is that fair?
That's a lot.
All right. Best fit, worst fit. It's really simple. First 10, ready? Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, J.C. Latham, Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze, and J.J. McCarthy. You can't use Michael Penix Jr. I'll add 11 just for fun. Olu Fashanu to the Jets. So we'll do 11 because I'm not letting you use Michael Penix Jr. Best fit, worst fit.
As worst fit?
Who's the worst fit in that top 11?
Michael Penix Jr.
You can't use them. So that's why I did 11 instead of 10.
I mean, best fit.
Best fit to me is Rome Odunze.
Okay.
I think him going as great of a receiver as he is, him going in and he's really only expected to be the number 3 receiver. I mean, that takes a ton of pressure off of you as a rookie. I think that's a great situation, especially learning behind 2 vets like Keenan Allen and DJ Moore.
I'll go different, just for the sake of the show. I'll go Joe Alt with San Diego or Los Angeles. Sorry,
I love that. I was going to use that. Joe Alt's a great fit for what Jim Harbaugh does.
With what he's going to want to do, he now has Alt and Slater on the bookends of that line, and he is one of the surefire things in the draft. The dude's huge, comes from a great lineage. He's going to do what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. They're going to smash the ball. So, I mean, I think he's a great fit for them.
Yeah, I can't go different. That was my pick. Joe Alt was my pick. Let me go first with worst fit, though, because I think the worst fit in the first round is Malik Neighbors to the Giants. And I think it's not that I think Neighbors is a bad pick. I just think that what Neighbors does, they don't have a quarterback right now on the roster that can utilize that. Daniel Jones is not hitting him on that deep ball. And I think Neighbors even said that in an interview 2 weeks before the draft when they said they have to address their quarterback situation in New York. I think it's a bad fit for them. So Neighbors is my worst fit.
Neighbors did everything possible and subtly to not go to New York without coming out and saying, I don't want the Giants to draft me. Like everything he could do and said, he tried, and it just didn't matter.
It's funny because the Giants didn't want to draft him either. They offered 2 first-round draft picks to move up to 3 to get Drake May, which I thought was interesting. Who's the worst fit for you in the first round? Our first 11 picks.
For me, I'm gonna go Drake May. And it's not because, I don't like him as a prospect, but just in general, like I just think with what his flaws are as a player and what he needs to work on, I don't think he's going to really get an opportunity to develop in New England. Like, yeah, I get it. They drafted Javon Baker at receiver, and I think he can be, a weapon for them, but I still don't love their receiving core. And I just don't think he's going to be in a position to succeed because he might not even have to start day one. They still might start Jacoby day one, but he's going to get thrown into the fire faster than what he needs to. And I don't think he's in a position to succeed in New England.
Shall we?
I'm going to agree 1,000,000%. Not that, Mac Jones played well, but he's getting thrown into the same situation. They have no elite players in any of the really skilled positions to allow a rookie quarterback to come in and be in a position to succeed. Patrell said it, 100% correct. And I think Drake May is obviously a better prospect than Mac Jones, but you still saw it. When you have guys that can't get open and you can't run the ball, and you're relying on tight ends all the time, that's just not going to work in the NFL.
All right, next 10. Bo Nix to the Broncos, Brock Bowers to the Raiders, Fuaga to the Saints, Latu to the Colts, Byron Murphy to the Seahawks, Dallas Turner to the Vikings, Amarius Mims to the Bengals, Jarrett Verse to the Rams, Fatanu to the Steelers, Chop Robinson to the Dolphins, and Quinion Mitchell to the Philadelphia Eagles. Best fit, worst fit.
Bro, I got like I'll go last in this because I got like a 3-way tie for 1.
Okay, so I think the worst fit in this entire what the hell were the Raiders doing? Why? Listen, Brock Bowers is going to be a great tight end in this league. He's George Kittle-esque. What the hell are the Raiders thinking? You just drafted Michael Mayer last year. You signed a tight end this offseason. What the hell are the Raiders thinking by drafting Brock Bowers there? They have needs all across the board. And to go draft a luxury like Brock Bowers at 13 is ass of 9, ass of 10, ass of 11.
I disagree wholeheartedly. He was the best offensive weapon on the board at that time. And the Raiders, outside of Devontae Adams, they lack offensive weapons. So you struck out on quarterback. And, if you want to talk about them for not trading up and getting a quarterback, then I get on them for that. But I think they went after value. Like, yeah, you could have got Dallas Turner to be opposite of Max Crosby. Yeah, you could have got Terrion Arnold or one of the corners. But I think they went after value, and we saw it last year. It's okay to admit that you were wrong on a pick. I'm not saying Michael Mayer is going to be bad this upcoming year, or he's a bad player, or he's a bust, or anything like that. But I don't know if you could pass up on Brock Bowers if you think that he's a top 5 player in this class. You go after talent when you're in that spot, in my opinion.
I disagree with you. I think the Raiders have a million holes in their team, and arguably tight end was their best position. As far as best,
because of Michael Mayer.
I mean, what other position do you think that the Raiders are just stacked at?
They're not stacked anywhere. You talk about them signing a tight end. They signed Harrison Bryant, who was the number 2 tight end in Cleveland, and he's
Harrison Bryant, and they have Michael Mayer already. They drafted Michael Mayer in the beginning of the 2nd round last year.
And he was not what you – I think Brock Bowers can go in.
Wasn't what? He didn't have a quarterback last year.
I get it. Brock Bowers won't have one either, but I guarantee you Brock Bowers will still look like Brock Bowers in that offense.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. And I think the best pick, like the best fit, listen, call me a homer, call me whatever. I think Quinyon Mitchell of Philadelphia is the best fit. I think that he's going to walk in, slot opposite of Darius Slay, and he's going to learn. He's going to learn pretty quick. I like Quinyon Mitchell in that pick. I'll take the Eagles for taking Quinyon Mitchell at 22.
I'm going to go with you on that one with Quinyon. I think the way Vic wants to play, leave the guys outside. He's incredibly fast. Showed at the Senior Bowl he can play with the elite talent. Obviously, still the stuff he's going to have to learn, but I do agree with you. I think learning from Slay and there's other guys. I think he's going to get up to speed quick, and I think it's a really good fit because I think he's going to be a guy that you can leave out in the island by himself.
What's your worst fit?
I
will say this just real quick because I feel like I can give you your worst fit with a guy I think it's underrated, going to be a really good fit. I love, look, I don't like Bo Nix everywhere, but I love Bo Nix to the Broncos. Him with Sean Payton in that offense and that scheme, very similar to Drew Brees like style. I love that fit for him. I think that Bo Nix found himself in a perfect situation.
If I like Denver's offense a little bit more, maybe I would agree with that. But
I mean, there's a lot of good picks between 12 and 22, in my opinion. I think there's a lot more good than bad. A lot of people gave Miami crap for drafting Chop Robinson. I'm not. Their defensive coordinator is the Ravens defensive line coach. And to have him coaching up that young, athletic stud, I'm good with it. That guy could be a game wrecker.
So
they got to refine him. No, I was just saying they got to refine him a little bit. But I also think people are forgetting, I want to call it a mass exodus, but the amount of pieces that Miami defense lost this year, like they had to go there. I think it was a good pick.
So for me, I said I had like a 3-way tie, and I truly meant that. I think Byron Murphy going to Seattle was a phenomenal pick for them. Pairing him with
Leonard Williams.
No, Mike McDonald.
All right.
Mike McDonald as like their head coach now, and him being in the middle of that defense. We talked about it last year. Seattle's weakness was at quarterback in the middle of that defensive line. And so you address that need, getting the best interior player in this class. You already hit on Quinyon Mitchell, so I won't touch on that too much. I think that's a great fit for the Eagles. And then the last one that I really liked from that grouping was I like the Colts getting Laiatu Latu, be a pass rusher for him and fly off the edge there. I think he's a great player, great value to be the first defensive player off the board at 15. But then as far as picks that just, I guess, worst fit, Amarius Mims, I think he's going to be a good player, but with that Bengals team, I just don't know where they're going to be able to play him right away. I think he's too big to play guard, and they seem to have figured out their tackles situation. So just kind of confused there. I think they could have went Troy Fautanu to play guard, shore up the interior there if you wanted to address the line.
All right, next 10. This will be the last 10, and then we'll be clear, and then we'll talk about who we think had the best draft and the worst draft. By the way, I at least want to mention Dallas Turner going to a Brian Flores defense in Minnesota was a very good pick. Brian Thomas Jr. to the Jaguars, Terry Arnold to the Lions, Jordan Morgan to the Packers, Graham Barton to the Buccaneers, Darius Robinson to the Cardinals, Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs, Tyler Guyton to the Cowboys, Nate Wiggins to the Ravens, Ricky Pearsall to the San Francisco 49ers, and Xavier Legette to the Carolina Panthers. Control, why don't you start us off on that one?
So I'll start with Terry Arnold going to the Lions. I think that's a match made in heaven. Lions were in the NFC Championship game last year, and they got the best corner in this draft, in my opinion. I think Terry Arnold is an absolute stud, and that was their weakest point. I think he's a guy who can go in, play right away, and he's going to be up to the challenge, especially playing for a guy like Nick Saban. I think he's going to come in, be as pro-ready as anybody else in this class, and I think that's a really good spot for him. As far as something I didn't necessarily love, I guess Darius Robinson going to the Cardinals at 27. Don't think Darius is a bad player, but I think there was more talent on the board, and I don't know if I would have took him there at 27.
Shally.
Terry Arnold was definitely one of mine. And then, I'm going to go with, I don't want to say it's low-hanging fruit, but I think Xavier Worthy going to Kansas City is going to be a problem. That wide receiving core has gone from, kind of what people thought was going to be a laughing stock to obviously we have to see what happens with Rice still, but Worthy is a type of guy that Patrick Mahomes is going to use, in kind of like the Tyreek Hill kind of thing. They're going to use him to get open with the speed, and there's really not anybody yet that we've seen that can really outrun one of his throws. So I think that makes Kansas City a very dangerous deep threat again next year. I think it's a great pick for Kansas City for him to fall to them.
Buffalo needs to stop trading with Kansas City. They just need to stop doing it. Not working out.
It's not working out for the best.
Worst fit? You want to give a worst fit or no? Because there's a really obvious worst fit that neither one of you guys touched so far. So
I don't hate the Robinson one as much as Cottrell, but I do understand. I don't love it either. I think Jacksonville did good taking the kid from LSU. Him falling, I think, was very beneficial for them. What am I missing?
I think you're missing Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona, going to the Green Bay Packers made no friggin' sense. That was the Cooper DeJean pick all over it. I have no idea why they didn't go there. They needed someone to play that nickel / safety in Green Bay, and I hate that pick of Jordan Morgan, who none of us had him in our top 5 offensive linemen. The guy, Arizona offensive tackle, just wasn't a fan of it. And I think he went ahead of guys that were better than him, if I'm being honest with you. I hate the pick for Green Bay. And then if we're talking about best fit, I love Nate Wiggins going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's a perfect fit for him and that team. I think he'll work out lovely in Baltimore.
I'm very curious to see what their defense looks like next year without McDonald.
It's fair. I like Terry Arnold too. I just didn't want to take the low-hanging fruit also.
I'm surprised no one talked about Ricky Pearsall. I was kind of surprised that the 49ers picked him there. I think they needed a receiver. I took Legette over. I took Keon Coleman over, and we went to the Bills day 2. That is one. Now I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
What team do you think had the best draft? What team do you think had the worst draft? And then we'll wrap up draft coverage.
I mean, I can go first. I think for me, again, kind of alluded to earlier, I love the Brock Bowers pick. I love the Raiders draft, even outside of Brock Bowers. Them getting Jackson Powers Johnson to be their starting center for next year, just to start an offensive lineman for him next year, I think that'll be really big for them. They got DeCamarion Richardson, who's a corner at Mississippi State. Thought that was a really good pick. Eichenberg from Ohio State, I think, is going to be a starter for them. And then they got one of my sleepers in this entire draft class, and Trey Taylor out of Air Force. He was a player who won the what's the DB? I think Jim Thorpe Award for best DB in the country last year. He's a great player, and knew he wasn't going to be one of those highly touted players in the class, but he's a guy who I feel like can be a starter for them. I think the Raiders did a good job of drafting. I think they got 5, maybe even 6 players that can start for them at some point this upcoming season. Then as far as the worst draft, a team that kind of flew under the radar that you didn't really hear much about them, because I think to this point, they probably are up there for teams that won the offseason. And for me, that's the Houston Texans. Didn't have a first-round pick. Don't love really any of the players that they got outside of Kate Stover and Gerard Jordan. And even then, Kate Stover's not a guy who's going to start for you because you got Dalton Schultz. I just feel like they did a bad job of getting value and getting future starters for their team.
Let me go next. I'm first number 1 draft. I think the Philadelphia Eagles. Quinion, Cooper DeJean. I love those 2 picks. Really shore up your secondary. They made a weakness into a strength. I don't know much about Jalix Hunt. I really wish I did. I'm hearing good things, but I have no idea about him. But I love Will Shipley to back up Saquon Barkley. I think that's a great pick. You also got another undersized linebacker in Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who you all think is going to be outside Shalley. Me and Cottrell both think he's going to be very good. And I think that you can plug and play him into Kobe Dean, and hopefully one of them really works out for you. I love Trevor Keegan. They got in the 5th round, offensive guard out of Michigan. Started 37 games for Michigan. And I love Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson has Evan Ingram written all over him. I think that he can easily be a Darren Waller type, an Evan Ingram type, a wide receiver that translates into a safety. I'm super, super happy with the Philadelphia Eagles draft. And
not to mention, you got the best undrafted free agent out there in Gabe Hall. He's going to be on the 53. I promise you.
Okay, I'll believe you. And as much as I like the Chop Robinson pick, I really don't like what the Miami Dolphins did. They drafted another running back in Jalen Wright. They didn't address their offensive guard problems that they have. They still have a starting left guard on their roster, like on their entire roster. I hate what they did. Their offensive line is in shambles. They drafted 1 offensive tackle, Patrick Paul, I think they overdrafted him, kid from Houston. Not a fan of what the Miami Dolphins did at all. They went heavy edge, 2 edge rushers in the draft, a running back, which was not a position of need. And not a fan.
For best, I mean, it's hard not to agree with Gene. I think the Eagles had a hell of a day. First 2 days, and then even getting value down further in the draft, like he said. I think Will Shipley absolutely fits right in this offense from day one. And then obviously having Mitchell, I think there's a chance Mitchell starts. And then I think Cooper DeJean's going to start in the back as well. They're just going to convert him to safety, which I think we've all talked about for the last couple months. And then further down, in value, Keegan, after he gets done with Jeff Stoutland, I mean, he will be a very good depth piece to have behind those guys on the offensive line. I think they had a great day. Didn't really have to give up anything anywhere.
Next year too.
Yeah. And Trotter, I mean, maybe Trotter competes with Dean. Dean's biggest issue is he can't stay on the field. So Trotter is definitely probably going to be a little bit more durable than him. But again, I'm not as high on him as you two are. But I think the Eagles had a hell of a day. For worst, honestly, I know everybody. I know some people are excited about it, but the Bo Nix to Drew Brees comparison thing is steep for me, man.
Bro, I'm not saying he's going to be Drew Brees, but like
my point is this. I think the rest of their draft, I don't think was great either. They one of the worst offensive lines last year. They didn't draft 1 lineman. Drafting took Franklin from Oregon, I think, in the 3rd round. Took Audric Estime from Notre Dame, running back in like the 5th round. I know they needed a quarterback. All the information's out there, saying that they were trying to move up to get Penix, and they had to settle for Bo Nix. So I don't, like I said, I don't hate that pick. by any means. I'm just not in love with it like other people are because I don't think Bo Nix is going to be Drew Brees. But I think the rest of their draft didn't really address any of their glaring needs they had. They lost 2 really good defensive backs last year. The rumor is Patrick Surtain is still on the trading block, so that defense needed an overhaul along with their offensive line, and they didn't really address any of it. So I don't think Denver had a good day.
Kyle, I'll give you 2, and I already said one, so I'll give it to you quick. Trey Taylor, 7th round pick going to the Raiders. I think that is great value there. And I got to give credit to the Baltimore Ravens. It's an undrafted guy. Bo Braid is a safety from Maryland who was supposed to be a 4th or 5th round pick, and he went undrafted. I think that is phenomenal value for a kid who I think could, I'm not going to say be a starter for them, but I could see him getting playing time in different packages.
All right, well, let's move on from the NFL draft. Great draft coverage. Love talking about it with you guys. We got a finals to preview, and it won't be too long, but I want to give our picks. By the way, I want to give Chally and Cottrell all the credit in the world. I did not expect the fight to be as strong as what it was, but we have a finals of, Shooter McGavin just barely edged out. Shooter McGavin just barely edged out Eric Taylor. The listeners spoke, and in fact, Eric Taylor had more votes. But, Shooter McGavin edged him by 2 points, and that was mainly because we got basically a 5-point lead headed into the –
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're right. So we are looking at, in my opinion, the best 2 sports characters in this entire bracket, Shooter McGavin and Rocky Balboa. I do want to give just a look. I think Shooter's hilarious. I think he's one of the best sports characters ever. But there's no way you're getting me to pick against Rocky Balboa. And we'll have a vote. We're all going to give our points out. I'm hoping Rocky has at least a 5-point lead in this one. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. I feel confident in our listeners to vote for Rocky Balboa over Shooter McGavin. Shooter's great, but it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. I'm going Rocky.
Good job.
I got Shooter in this one. I think Shooter's the better character here, and it's not taking anything away from Rocky. Love Rocky. I voted Rocky to get all the way here, and I don't think he's had any opponents even close to him so far. But I'm rolling with Shooter here. I think he's the better character. I think he's the greatest villain of all time here. I think he's more entertaining. I think Rocky's had some great movies, and again, I don't want to take anything away from Rocky, but I'm rolling with Shooter.
Well, I'm going with Shooter. I don't think it matters what happens on the show because I think the deck's going to be stacked against them with where we are. I think Rocky's going to get a gazillion votes, so I don't think it's going to matter. I think Shooter's a better character. I think there is no Happy Gilmore movie whatsoever without Shooter McGavin. And I know you could say the same thing about Rocky. There's also been movies where Rocky hasn't even been the best character in that movie. I think the longevity of it.
We're not going to shit on Rocky.
I'm not shitting on him. I'm just saying. What
he did say fact.
Yeah. Who's the better character in Rocky 4? Him or Drago?
Rocky.
Nah, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. You're kidding. That movie. If you take Drago out of that movie, what is that movie?
Rocky
5.
Else. Drago had 6
lines. Correct. And that's what makes them great. That's why you need supporting actors, the ones that have huge impacts on movies that don't have to talk the whole time. Rocky 4 is regarded the best Rocky, which me and you both agree on, is because of Drago, not because of Rocky. They built that up. That movie.
I think it's because of the United States USSR rivalry, but that's where I'm at. I think
it's because he killed Apollo, but that's just me.
That's a good one too.
Yep.
Rocky's never killed anybody, as far as I know.
But yeah, Rocky is a local thing. I'm not shitting on him. I stated one fact, and Gene got huffy. But I'm going. I'm going with Shooter. I think Rocky's going to win. Like I said, I think in this area, I think he's going to clean up. I also think Gene knows that. But I'm going Shooter.
All right. Well, I mean, that's our picks. Shooter's going to have a 5-point lead, and we'll see what ends up happening. I'm very confident the listeners out there will be Rocky Balboa heavy. I know that the comments on Twitter are coming in already. Rocky. So appreciate all you guys listening over on Twitter. I know your comments can't pop up on the screen, but I see them. Thank you very much. We got 35 active listeners right now on Twitter, or X. Sorry, I got to stop messing it up. But appreciate all you guys over there. All right, so I mean, we got to talk about this terrible UFC card.
Quick.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I really wanted to waste our entire time on this show talking about the two topics that really mattered to me. And then we get to give Kentucky Derby picks, which I'm pretty happy about that. We got to talk about the UFC card. It's going to be terrible. Brazil, I apologize to you guys. You got a terrible card. But let's break down the top two fights. Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. The ghost of Jose Aldo's past versus Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez is a winner. He's won 6 straight fights after he got TKO'd 3 years ago. I like Jonathan Martinez in the fight. I think Jose Aldo's done. I'm nothing against Jose Aldo. I think he had a great career. Just don't think he's Jose Aldo anymore. And want to give credit to a great career for Jose Aldo, but I hope he drops the gloves after this one. I really do. There's where I'm at, right? He beat Rob Font, Pedro Munez, Chito Vera, and then he lost his last fight to Merab in a unanimous decision. So I think this is it for Jose Aldo. I think he loses this one, and I think he drops the glove. He's 37, about to be 38 years old. I'm done with Jose.
I'll go next here then. I'm on the opposite end of Gene. I got Jose Aldo here. Say what you want about Jonathan Martinez winning his last 6 fights, and I get it. He's looked good doing so. At this point, he's got I think a Cub Swanson win, and then he beat Saeed Nurmagomedov. And then outside of that, though, I think Jose will be the best fighter that he's seen there in the octagon. The other thing with Jose as well is that he had already retired once. Like, he dropped the gloves, he was done, and then they said, "Hey, we're going to Brazil," and he's like, "You know what? I'll come back for one more." You talk about him losing to Merab, and yeah, he got absolutely dominated in that fight. But let's also remember that was a out of nowhere championship run for Jose. If he wins that Merab fight, he's the next one in line for a title shot. So I think Jose is past his prime clearly, and he's not the fighter that he once was. But I still think he's got some gas left in the tank, and I got him pulling out a win Saturday against Jonathan Martinez.
I think this is the last stand of Jose Aldo, but I say that I think he's going to win. I think win, lose, or draw, he should drop the clubs. I think that, to Cottrell's point, that title run that maybe we thought, possibly he could pull off. He lost to Merab. That kind of ended that. He's not going to climb back up that hill now. Home, back in Rio, he's at home. I think it'd be a great way for it to end, a Hall of Fame career. Beat Jonathan Martinez, hang him up in front of your home fans. It's a really, really good ending to a really, really good career. So I do agree as well. I think Aldo is still a level above anybody that Martinez has beat. And again, I mean, getting dominated by Merab is not the best thing in the world, but I mean, he's also one of the the hottest up and coming fighters in that class right now. So losing to him is you're not losing to some slouch. I think Aldo wins. I think Aldo takes care of business, then hopefully hangs him up. So I'll go Aldo.
Can you guys help me understand the odds on this next fight? Because I feel like they fed Usyk to Pantoja in this fight in Brazil. And like I really felt like that's what they're doing, but I don't understand why the odds are where they are. Urseg's not that good of a fighter, and if you've watched him fight, Astro Boy is just he's good, he's competitive, but like, come on, man. Like, who's the best win in his entire career? Is it Alessandro Costa? Like, is that his best win? I'm not a fan of Astro Boy. I think he's severely overrated. And I think if we're being completely honest, he got the fight off of a TKO or off of a 16-8 fighter. I think this is a setup fight, and I don't know why the odds are where they are. So I'll probably be wrong, and Pantoja will probably find a way to lose the fight.
The reality of the situation is that Steve Usyk has never had a fight go 5 rounds before. Pantoja has, and Pantoja's been in there with killers. I think Pantoja is a guy who is showing you right now, at least, he's at the top of the mountain. He looks great in the octagon doing so. I think this is going to be a dominant win for him. I think it goes the distance here, but I think Alexander shows you what those championship rounds are really like. He's going to show you exactly what it is to be a champion and how to last and how to look dominant in those late rounds.
I'm going to agree with both of you guys. I think Pantoja wins. I think it's probably a one-sided fight. I'm not quite sure it goes 5, but won't be surprised if it does. But yeah, I think this is kind of a fill me in kind of. We got to give them some kind of title fight type thing, to make it headline a pay per view. Nonetheless, I don't. Again, to Gene's point, I think Astro is way out of his league here, and I think you're going to see that. So I like Pantoja big.
All right, let's get into our Kentucky Derby picks. I guess I don't want to say a long shot to win, but I have 2 horses that I'm going to probably slightly dabble on. Shally, why don't you introduce it to us? I know you're great with this.
Well, the 150th Kentucky Derby, the Run for the Roses, as it is known. 150th. This is kind of a big one. Crazy to think this horse race has been held that many years. And that just kind of goes back to, the history of horse racing and why people love it. Like Gene said it right before we came on. No matter what you're doing, everybody will spend 2 minutes of their day on Saturday and watch this race. So it's great. Like I said, it's part of kind of Americana. I'm excited. I'll be waiting for it. So Churchill Downs, obviously Louisville, Kentucky. Weather was a little iffy beginning of the week. It looks like it's probably going to hold off for this race at least. So they should have a dry track. A lot of interesting horses, 4 or 5 that I think a lot of people like. I think the intrigue this year, Gene kind of touched on it already. There are a lot of, I would say, mid-pack horses that could finish on the board, maybe even pull off an upset and win. There's 2 or 3 really elite horses in it, but if they somehow get stuck up in traffic and can't get free runs, there is a lot of horses in this race that can win the race. I think it's going to be a really fun race. I think pace is going to be extremely important. There's 2 or 3, front-setting horses that if they get out and set a crazy pace, it could backfire for a lot of the horses that like to close that are some of the favorites. So pace will be very important if you're watching on Saturday and you have bets in. If you have the closing horses and they go out super fast, half mile, 3/4 mile, if they're way ahead of pace, probably not ideal because those horses are going to have to go early. So, but we'll see what everybody picks here. But I am super excited for Saturday. I think it's going to be a great race.
So I have a somewhat of a favorite and a long shot I like in this race, right? So
I'm all in. Can I go first? I just got one.
All right.
I just got one. And I'm going to put together, my superfectas and all that stuff before Saturday. But my winner, I got it right here for you guys. Just a Touch is going to be your winning horse on Saturday. He's got 3 starts the entire year. He's finished no lower than second. He's got 2 second place finishes and a win. Odds, he was sitting at 10-1 last I look. I'm telling you, Just a Touch is going to get it done on the track.
And that is one of the mid-pack horses that a lot of people like.
I really like Resilience at 20-1. I can't understand how he's 20-1. Everything I looked up, like his trainer is a Kentucky Derby winner already. He's 20-1 odds, man. And like he's won 2 of his last 3 races. I'm a resilience guy at 20-1. I like that. But I think the horse that ultimately wins the race is Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone has really high top speed. And I think he's consistent and he's constantly been in the top 3. He's never ran a race where he hasn't finished top 3. So Sierra Leone is my pick, and my long shot would be Resilience.
All right. I think, well, I'm just going to start with my winner. I'm going with Sierra Leone as well. I think they're going to plop him towards the back. I think but to Gene's point, he is the fastest closing horse. He has the second highest speed index of anybody in this race other than Fierceness, which I think is going to battle down the stretch for the win. Make no doubt about it. If this was a smaller field, I think Fierceness is no doubt about it the winner. That horse is the best horse. It's the fastest horse in this race. But like we see all the time, Kentucky Derby, 20 horses. Horses get stuck. They don't get good runs. They get kicked, whatever.
Stuck in the bag.
The best horse doesn't always win the Kentucky Derby. It's the matter of fact. And that's why winning the Triple Crown is so hard. Sierra Leone has enough speed early that they don't have to use him up and can just let him trail off that pack. He's going to go to the outside. And if he comes around turn 4 and there's nobody in front of that horse, he is going to pass everyone. The horse is a rocket down the stretch. I'm going Sierra Leone 1. I think he tracks down Fierceness at the end. 2, I like Forever Young 3, and I'm going a little bit off the board, but I'm going Domestic Product to come in 4th and hit the board, probably jack up the Superfecta big time. So those are my 4.
It's funny. I like a 30-1 at 3. I like Epic Ride. He's filling in for Encino. I like Epic Ride. He's never finished a race in his career outside of the top 3. And his last, he finished 3rd behind Sierra Leone in just a touch in his most recent race. So I like Epic Ride to hop in to my top 3 in the trifecta.
So I think the one interesting thing too, like, we always talk about the horses on here. I think that the jockeys, of course the horses matter, a lot, but damn near, I think the jockeys almost matter more. Like you see it all the time. Like the jockeys with the experience know, when they need to make a move, when not to, just not press it too early. Because down the stretch, whether it be just a cluster of horses and just nowhere to make a move and things like that. Like I love the experienced jockeys. So I got to look a little bit more into some of these jockeys who are going to, the final standings of who's going to be the jockeys on some of these horses. But I think that's a very underrated part of picking Kentucky Derby winners.
So to put a point on one of the things I said, Resilience, which is a horse that a lot of people like, maybe hit the board, hit your trifecta, superfecta. John Velasquez has rode that horse all year. He's not riding that horse in the Derby. He's going to ride Fierceness, which is the fastest horse in the Derby. Here's what if you're a Sierra Leone fan, and I am, and like I said, that is going to be my pick. If Fierceness comes around the final turn and there's nobody in front of him, this race is over. If John Velasquez gets that horse a clean ride, and he is the best in the business, the guy's won the Derby 4 times, has an enormous amount of previous at Belmont. The guy's as good as it gets, to Cottrell's point. If he can get him a clean ride and not get stuck behind somebody and not have to use him up early to get out wide, then you might kind of see a little bit of a blowout. You could see Fierceness winning by 5-6 lengths. That is a very fast. It's the fastest horse in the race.
All right, let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me.
All right, so my You Gotta Be Kidding Me this week. A little two-parter. Got to get some setup with it. But this week for me, the first half at least, is going to be on The Athletic. So The Athletic put out a story a couple days ago about Xavier Smith, who is a kid who formerly played for Colorado, and they did a sit-down interview with him, and he got to spilling the tea about what it was like being at Colorado. He said that Deion Sanders told him that he should hit the portal like many others, but he didn't. And then he also said during the spring practice, he felt more like an extra in the background of the reality show as opposed to a player on the team. My issue with The Athletic putting out that story is that this is a whole year of removed from him being in Colorado. The entire last season he played at Austin Peay. Why are you doing a story now, digging up this old dirt from a kid who was really, I mean, he was an extra. You look at a lot of teams, any Division I program, the guys who are at the end of that scholarship list or in from old regimes or the walk-on players, I'm sure a lot of those guys feel like walk-on players in that situation. So pretty irrelevant for The Athletic to put out, a story a year later about a kid who was never in the mix to be anything anyway. Deion was honest with him and said, hey, you should hit the portal. You're probably not going to play here. And that's just what it was. He went to Austin Peay, school that's not in the Power 5, and didn't have great numbers last year with them. So maybe Deion was onto something there. But then the second part of it for me is the Sanders family. So that report came out or whatever. They could have just let it be, just let bygones be bygones, move on from it. But no. Shedeur took to Twitter yesterday and said, I don't even remember him. Bro had to be mid at best. And then you had another one of the teammates post his stats from last year at Austin Peay and say, like, really? Like, come on. And then Deion Sanders, of all people, quoted and was like, Lord Jesus. But it's, at this point, though, it's like, Deion, you should have better things to worry about than some kid that has sour grapes that moved on from your school that you told him in the first place didn't have any business being on the roster. That's stuff that you have to ignore. And I get it. You hear a lot of noise, a lot of people chirping, things like that. But this is stuff that you have to be above. You can't just go chirping on Twitter whenever you have somebody that you disagree with or, somebody bad mouthing you from your old school. So for me this week, it's a twofold. The Athletic for putting out the story, and then Shedeur and Deion Sanders for giving them the engagement that the Athletic were ultimately looking for.
Kidding me?
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, it's a good one.
I was actually going to use Shedeur, so it is. I agree with everything Charles said, like literally everything. I think Deion and Shedeur need to focus on winning football games this year. I understand they had a great haul in the transfer portal. I get all that. You still got to go put it out in the field. You got to make it make sense. You got to get W's. And you're talking a whole lot of trash for a program that won 4 games last year, 3
Yep.
what it was. You're going to be in the Power 5 conference that really kind of nobody cares about compared to the other two. And I mean, I guess you could argue it might be better than the ACC, but probably not. And you're just putting targets on your backs. I mean, it's just there was no need to address it. Then I saw another thing, like Deion tweeted back at somebody else. It was like, my kid's gonna be a top 10 pick next year. Like, your kid can't play at a mid-level school. Like, dude, you just don't, like Chelsea, you don't have to engage in it. You just don't. Just be above it. Just worry about getting your team ready to play football in September. That's what you need to focus on, not who's there. Worry about the kids that are there. Don't worry about the kids that are gone. And again, with the amount of publicity they got, I think this is kind of why, somebody posted, I'm done with Colorado. I think the media exhaustion is starting to be real with Colorado. And I think people are just getting tired of hearing about them in general, in good or bad. For a team that won 3 games last year, they're on the news way too much. So I was going to use the same, but I agree with Cottrell. So Gene can do his now.
Okay, so I think mine's going to shock some people, and that's okay. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but over draft weekend, Jamal Charles read a pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it went viral because Jamal Charles has a learning disability and is just, I think he has dyslexia and he has issues reading sentences, and he's never been a good reader. And he went to Kansas City and wanted to read a pick, and he really wanted to be a part of that, and he wanted to try and give the effort to do that. My, you got to be kidding me, isn't Kansas City for putting him out there? My, you got to be kidding me, isn't Jamal Charles for not being able to read the pick or do a great job reading. My, you got to be kidding me, is the awful people that have just made fun of this man for not being able to read properly. And like some of the things that they said, like special ed, and like they're making fun of him, and they're constantly, and the videos that they're making. Like, I just don't know like where your heart is to be able to make fun of someone as a known learning disability. Like, you have to be the worst person in the world to just like look at that and be like, okay, this is funny to me that this person's having an issue reading. And like, all you have to do is simple Google search, just Jamal Charles. And the first thing that'll pop up is that he has a learning disability. And I'm really, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in humanity. And it frustrates me to see that. And I wanted to give it, you got to be kidding me, to anybody that's just taking that video and gotten views and likes off it, making fun of Jamal Charles. And just some things are more important than money. Some things are more important than likes. Some things are more important than views. And for that, this week, it's just all the bad people.
Kidding me.
I will say 9 out of 10 people in their life will never do anything as brave as that. And you do a quick Google search to realize up until his teenager years, he really couldn't read. The man was, I mean, debatably the best running back in the league for a couple years. If not, he's in the top 3. He's dealt with his, learning disability his whole life. And you've to really put that into perspective. This isn't like, hey, you're reading books. Realize how much of a struggle it was for Jamal Charles to memorize a playbook and get it right all the time and be a very, very good NFL football player for a long time. I give that guy, not that I ever felt like one way or the other about him, but I have a newfound respect for Jamal Charles. And then to find out that he's trying to, work his way into, like, he wants to get into the front office, the Chiefs are giving him a job to like kind of break him in. Like, it's just such a great story to go and to just know you're going out there. And then on top of that, you just didn't get an easy name to pronounce either. Everything was going against him.
And it was a trade too, like extra.
Yeah, it was just there, like it was like, all right, we're gonna let Jamal go up. We're gonna draft Joe Smith. And then it was like trade happened and everything else. That guy still walked out on stage knowing hundreds of millions of people are watching and still tried. And like I said, 9 out of 10 people that are criticizing him and making fun of him will never do anything that brave or courageous in their life. And they won't. And they suck. And it's just a microcosm of what's wrong with this country right now.
All right. Well, that's a good, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Any final comments?
Yeah. So got one this week. So tomorrow is one of the biggest fans of the show. They're having a birthday. Audia's going to be having her Kareem Hunt birthday. So wanted to give her a shout out. And
why do we go with Kareem Hunt there?
Because he's a Cleveland guy. He's 27, Where's the jersey 27?
Mike Trout.
Mike Trout.
You were doing so fine. So you dropped Kareem Hunt.
She'll appreciate the Kareem Hunt reference.
She's randomly dropped. Is she gonna kick it into a new gear?
You get it. See, you got it. But she'll appreciate it, the Browns reference. Happy birthday. Appreciate all the support with the show, obviously outside of show life, all that stuff. But had to give her a shout out for sure.
We love you, Audia.
Hopefully she doesn't get kicked in the hallway of a hotel or anything.
Couldn't have just gave her a Mike Trout type birthday, or
she doesn't watch. She doesn't watch Angels baseball. She doesn't care about that stuff. She likes Kareem Hunt on the field.
I actually have one too. Actually, in today, one of our biggest listeners, definitely one of my boys. But Brandon Pfister, his birthday is today. He's not listening tonight because he's obviously doing birthday things. But give him a shout out. His happy birthday. He comes in here and trolls a lot and gets Gene all fired up and then leaves, which I can't stand. But My guy's birthday is today, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to everybody out there. Appreciate you guys tuning in to episode 187, Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Cottrell, Scholastic Uncle Shally, and we are signing out.